What if Jamaica bought back Air Jamaica? What would it cost? How would it work? And is it even realistic?
Anybody remember when Caribbean Airlines and Air Jamaica did it about? Because why when I come and play now, I fly 3-4 hours? A biscuit me get. Biscuit can full belly for 4 hours. But anyways, I say, you know what, I'm going to try this. Because that one, it tastes like, you remember Scooby-Doo snack? This is what this tastes like. And then I was wondering why them love this Scooby-Doo snack on the plane them. And it's actually because of allergies, because they don't have any nuts and they don't have any, what them say? Something else. But no, remember when them have ackee and saltfish? I gotta get a little stewed chicken, rice and peas, and now I just bare biscuits. Like, come on, man.
Hey people, what's up? Listen up, this is the Byron, man. How you doing? How you doing? Don't move. Alright, so of course I just saw news clipping from CVM that the Caribbean Airlines, they are intending to discontinue flights from Jamaica to South Florida. Imagine, South Florida of all places. You know what I'm saying? And they are planning to do that by sometime next year. Unfortunate as it may be, I think this is an opportunity for us in Jamaica to now start to consider seriously having our own plane. Look how much planes come into Jamaica. Look how many tourists come into Jamaica. Look how many Jamaicans traveling to Jamaica. And look at South Florida, which is like Jamaica outside of Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? So if they can't find that route to be profitable, which other route are they going to find profitable? I know JetBlue fly there. Several planes fly on that route, but Caribbean Airlines can't make it. So it's time for us now, ladies and gentlemen, to consider having our own airline, get 2 planes somewhere on a lease, you know what I'm saying? Get a sprayman, spray on the Jamaica colours on it. Get an artist, paint on Shelly face and paint on Uthien board face and make sure so the bird upon it. And that is our plane, Air Jamaica. You know what I mean? Call it Air Jamaica Platinum. You understand what I'm saying? And put it on the stock market. Jamaicans are very investment au fait right now. It's not like back in the days when only certain people invest. Everybody invest, even 10 cents. You know what I mean? People are invest now. You know what I'm saying? So I think it is time now, ladies and gentlemen, for us to consider that right now. Let us have our own airline so we can determine our own destiny. If other airlines crash elsewhere, no, not crash like literally crash. I'm close to the airport. Like if they're having difficulty, we know that we can depend on our Air Jamaica to fly. All right, we have very good pilots, we have wonderful mechanics, and we have beautiful ladies who can just come off our road and step up on the plane and them turn air hostess long time. You know what I'm saying? So what do you all think about this? You think it's time for us to have back a Air Jamaica? What do you think? Would you invest in it if it is put out in public on the stock market? Talk to me, Barrel Man.
Yeah, Andrew supporter. I want to ask you something. Why you not ask Andrew to buy back a airline for Jamaica? Remember say Bruce sell Air Jamaica, you know? Bruce Golden sell Air Jamaica. And none of you can tell me nothing because I love coming in the comment section with a lie. You can't tell me nothing. Bruce Golden sell Jamaica. And for real Jamaican them when no wagwan can represent on this year Bruce Golden sell Air Jamaica when he come in a power. So why you not tell Andrew say if he build back a airline for Jamaica or buy back a airline for Jamaica, make we have back a airline out there. He saying come as a young prime minister and he come to lead we. Why you not get a airline give we? He come and buy 2 little bus and come show we. Brother, you not do nothing for we, brother. You not build with industry, brother. You come for break with down, brother. We want a Qatar or a Dubai. A who you man? Come down, man. Yeah, your people them. Sure.
I love when you're on the plane or at the airport and they're like, thanks so much for flying XYZ airline. I'm like, we didn't have a choice because y'all flattened the industry. In case anyone forgot, I'm headed to the island of Jamaica. And 20 years ago, I was flying on Air Jamaica. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. And we have about, 3 airlines to pick from? Yeah, that's because they flattened the industry. And speaking of industries that are going to be flattened, banking's up next. Because when the regional banks fail, who do you think is going to come in and buy them all up?
Do you remember Air Jamaica? Air Jamaica was the national flag carrier for Jamaica until it dissolved in 2015. The airline was established in 1968, with its first passenger flight leaving the ground in 1969. Air Jamaica provided flights to many of the nearby Caribbean islands. They also had international flights to the United States, Canada, and Europe. The airline flew many aircraft types, including the Boeing 727, the McDonnell Douglas DC-9, and the Airbus A340. Air Jamaica was purchased in 2010 by Caribbean Airlines. Caribbean operated Air Jamaica for several years until all operations ceased in 2015. Have you flown on Air Jamaica? Let us know in the comments.
In a real life, yes, people. Who remembers the Jamaican National Airline? Long since gone out of business. Should it forward back? In a real life.
The Air Jamaica was absorbed in 2010. Makers promised a 16% stake. Today it's 11.9%, diluted after fresh capital injections by Trinidad. And what do the Jamaican taxpayers get for their investment? No audited statement since 2015. $60 million spent on consultants for audits that never materialized. Contradictory financial claims from Trinidad's own finance ministers. A revolving door of executives and board chairs. For Jamaica, this isn't just poor governance, it's disenfranchisement. For many Jamaicans, the closure of Air Jamaica remains a painful memory. Yes, it was losing money. Yes, it was fiscally unsustainable. But it was also a source of pride, Jamaica's colors flying across the world. In exchange, Jamaica accepted a minority stake in Caribbean Airlines, but what does that stake represent? CAL is branded explicitly as Trinidad and Tobago's national airline, with no trace of Jamaica. There is no meaningful Jamaican representation in its branding or governance. Employment benefits? Minimal at best. Few Jamaicans, if any, serve as CAL crew. So what's the point of holding the stake?
In 1969, the government of Jamaica took the bold step to establish a national airline. These 15 years have seen Air Jamaica expand from 2 routes to 10 and carry more than 8.5 million passengers. Air Jamaica has made it possible for many Jamaicans to find career opportunities here in their own country. Overseas, they showed off the best of Jamaica and gave Jamaica's tourism a competitive edge. At home, Air Jamaica kept the travel opportunity within the reach of everyone, and all with a unique flair and style that said unmistakably, "We are Jamaica, the little piece of Jamaica that flies." Going good for 15 years.
So I have a really good one for you today. Remember back in the day when Air Jamaica was the thing? We have to agree, right? That was the best airline, bar none. That was when the Air Jamaica planes still had the orange and yellow logo, or even in the 90s when they changed over to the orange and blue logo. Now, my favorite memory was when these gorgeous flight attendants would saunter out with a full complement of dining utensils for you to have your dinner. So Stitch, Duet, leave me a comment on your best memories of Air Jamaica back in the day. Remember that Lovebird that was on the back of the plane?
Good morning, Jamaicans. Good morning, or good evening, good night, good afternoon, wherever you guys are. Nobody's going to say it to you, so I am going to help you guys out, okay? Stop coming on the aircraft where people wear this blue and this orange color uniform and arguing with them about a complete different company. Stop arguing with them about Air Jamaica. Air Jamaica is gone. Air Jamaica is no more. You're not coming back. Stop telling me that you need mackerel and liver and dumpling and callaloo and breadfruit and all the other stuff that Air Jamaica used to serve. This is not Air Jamaica. This company serves snacks. This is what the snacks look like. This is the menu card. Get familiar with it. Get familiar with this thing in the seat back pocket. We serve these things. They're called snacks. Jamaicans, you like to call it dry food. There is no cooked food on this plane. We don't have any mackerel, we don't have any liver, we don't have any dumpling, nothing like that. Stop it. Are you going to fight with me over what I tell you I have? Oh, I don't know what kind of plane this. They're not gonna play this. I be a dry food. Yes. Eat in your yard. I'm sorry. Goodbye.
What if Jamaica bought back Air Jamaica? What would it cost? How would it work? And is it even realistic? To answer that, we need to look at the history, the math, the funding options, and finally, the hard truth about running an airline. We start with the history. Air Jamaica was more than just an airline. It was a source of national pride, carrying the Jamaican flag around the world. It symbolized independence, identity, and global presence. But along with that pride came financial trouble. Like many national carriers, Air Jamaica struggled with mounting losses. Operating an airline is expensive and complex, and the company faced repeated deficits year after year. By the 2000s, the situation was no longer sustainable. The government kept pouring money in to cover losses, but it wasn't enough. In 2010, the Jamaican government made the decision to divest. Air Jamaica's routes and operations were handed over to Caribbean Airlines, based in Trinidad and Tobago. By 2011, the agreement was formalized. Jamaica retained only about a 16% minority stake. Why did Jamaica sell? The answer is straightforward. The airline had become a financial drain. Losses kept piling up, and the government could not justify using taxpayer money to subsidize an airline that never seemed to turn the corner. During the divestment process, the government also had to cover outstanding obligations. Reports from that time show that the transition cost the state hundreds of millions of US dollars. Figures around 164 million to 200 million were cited for the divestment and transitional expenses. That was money spent to close the books, settle debts, and hand over operations smoothly. Now that we know the backstory, let's look at what buying back Air Jamaica would actually mean, because the answer depends on what exactly Jamaica would be buying. There are 4 main scenarios. The first scenario is the cheapest. Buy back the brand and the route rights. This means Jamaica would own the Air Jamaica name and could reclaim certain route authorities, but the government wouldn't run the planes or employ the staff directly. Instead, it could license the brand to an operator. Think of it as owning the trademark and the flag, but letting someone else handle the day-to-day flights. The second scenario is operations with leased aircraft. In this model, Jamaica would acquire some operational rights, hire staff, and lease planes rather than buying them outright. Leasing makes entry cheaper and quicker. The airline could restart flights under the Air Jamaica banner, but it would need serious working capital to cover startup losses until revenue catches up. The third scenario is a full acquisition. This means Jamaica takes back everything: fleet, staff, maintenance bases, and liabilities. This is the most expensive because the government would not only have to pay for assets, but also take on debts, pension obligations, and integration costs. The fourth scenario is to start from scratch. Jamaica could set up a brand new airline, applying for licenses, buying or leasing planes, hiring crews, and building infrastructure. This is effectively a greenfield project, and while it gives full control, it's often the most expensive way forward. Now let's move to the math. What would each scenario cost in today's terms? Scenario A, brand and route rights only. Let's assume Jamaica buys back the Air Jamaica brand for about 30 million US dollars. Add another 20 million for 1 year of working capital and marketing to relaunch. That brings the total to $50 million. The math is simple: 30 plus 20 equals 50. Scenario B, operations with leased aircraft. Here we estimate 100 million to acquire operational rights and basic assets. Add 80 million for 2 years of working capital and startup losses. Then add 20 million for lease deposits and initial payments on about 6 narrow-body aircraft. The total is $200 million. The math goes 100 plus 80 equals 180, add 20 and you get 200. Scenario C, full acquisition and recapitalization. Let's assume a buyout price of $300 million. Add 400 million to cover legacy liabilities and obligations. Then add another 400 million to replace part of the fleet and fund multi-year working capital. That totals $1.1 billion. The math is 300 plus 400 equals 700. Add another 400 and you reach 1.1 billion. These 3 examples show how wide the cost range can be. At the low end, you might spend around 50 million. At the high end, more than $1 billion. The spread is huge because it depends on what exactly Jamaica wants to own and how much risk it is willing to take. Why is the range so wide? Because airlines are not just about airplanes. They carry heavy legacy liabilities, pensions, staff costs, vendor contracts, and lease obligations. When Jamaica sold Air Jamaica in 2010, it had to spend hundreds of millions just to close the books. If the country tried to take the airline back now, it would face similar costs, plus the need to recapitalize the business. Now that we've looked at the math, the next question is, how could you make a fund such a buyback? The first option is straight sovereign financing. The government could issue a bond or use reserves. For example, a $500 million bond at 5.5% interest rate would cost about $27.5 million in annual interest. That's 500 million times 0.055, which equals 27.5. The problem is that this adds directly to national debt and affects the country's creditworthiness. The second option is a public-private partnership. In this model, the government partners with private investors. For instance, if the total cost is $400 million, the private side could take 60%, or $240 million, while the government puts in 40%, or $160 million. That way, the financial risk is shared. The third option is a concession or management contract. The government could own the brand and certain assets, but let an experienced global operator run the airline. The operator would collect a management fee and share in revenues. This requires less upfront money and reduces operational risk. The fourth option is selling a minority stake to a strategic partner. For example, if a foreign airline buys 49% for $200 million, that values the company at just over $400 million. The proceeds could go toward recapitalization. This brings in cash and expertise, but means Jamaica wouldn't have full control. The fifth option is sovereign-backed commercial loans or export credit financing for aircraft purchases. This would let Jamaica borrow at relatively low rates for hard assets like planes, but it still increases contingent liabilities. Another idea is a phased buyback. Jamaica could start small, just buying back the brand and a few routes for $50 million, and then expand only if the business proves viable. This lowers near-term risk. So funding is possible, but every option comes with trade-offs. Now let's talk about the challenges of actually running an airline. This is where things get tough. Airlines operate on razor-thin margins. They are highly sensitive to fuel prices, labor costs, and demand for travel. They are vulnerable to shocks like hurricanes, pandemics, or sudden drops in tourism. Caribbean carriers in particular have repeatedly faced losses due to small markets, high operating costs, and competition from larger airlines. Caribbean Airlines itself is a good example. After acquiring Air Jamaica, it also struggled with heavy losses. Integration was expensive, and the hoped-for efficiencies didn't materialize easily. This shows that buying an airline doesn't automatically solve the business model problem. Airlines are also prone to political pressure. A government-owned airline might be forced to run unprofitable routes for prestige or political reasons. Staffing decisions can also become political, leading to inefficiency. All these factors make the airline business one of the hardest industries in the world. So let's pull it together. Could Jamaica buy back Air Jamaica? In theory, yes. Funding could come from government bonds, private partnerships, or strategic investors. But no matter how it's financed, the risks are very real. Airlines burn cash quickly. They face global competition. They're subject to shocks that can wipe out years of profit. And in the Caribbean, even strong airlines like Caribbean Airlines face constant revenue struggles. So while it's fun to think about Jamaica buying back Air Jamaica, running an airline is incredibly complex and very expensive. National pride is important, but financial stability is even more important.
Hello, what's up, beautiful and amazing people? Guys, thank you so much for always coming back and subscribing to this channel. Thank you for the engagement. I truly appreciate Jamaicans. You are very supportive, and actually I've been loving you since I discovered that you are so proud to be associated with Africa and Africans. So in today's video, I want us to talk about why Jamaica needs Air Jamaica back. So most of us already know what really happened to Air Jamaica. And that cannot stop us from being ambitious, from being hopeful that one day, one time, Air Jamaica will come back. So after listening to Jamaicans, for real, Air Jamaica needs to come back. But before that, can we talk about the history of Air Jamaica. I know we've listened a lot of it, but still, we need to do a reaction or commentary about it, right? The sale of Air Jamaica and the consequences. So most of the clips that we played here is just a sale, but then we add the consequences, and that's what we need to discuss. And then finally, we talk about now, why do we really need Air Jamaica back? So, my good people, can we now talk about the financial reality, the main factor that really made Air Jamaica to be sold, and that is the financial reality. So, Air Jamaica basically was known to be the beloved flag carrier of Jamaica, also known as the Lovebird. So the Lovebird was the brand name, the identity, something that really identified Jamaica. And the early years of its existence, it actually made a lot of losses. It was really difficult. It was extremely struggling with finances. It faced a lot of financial difficulties, and by the year 2010, it had recorded losses in 40 years out of 42 years of its existence into the market. So that was really terrible, and the government had accumulated so much losses because the government is the one that kept the airline alive by, borrowing more and more debt from the IMF. And all these losses, of course, it had accumulated to 1.54 billion US dollars. That's a lot, not even like Jamaican dollars. That's a lot, guys. And given that the government's high demand and the need to fund critical social services and infrastructure in the entire Caribbean island, the government finally decided that, we are done. We are completely done with this thing, and we just need to, sell it off and at least continue with these other necessary and critical items that is needed by the Jamaicans. So they found it unsustainable, and that's how the Air Jamaica dream, was completely came into an halt. And according to the reports outside here in the online media, if you Google it, if you search, you'll actually read that, it's the IMF that literally forced the government of Jamaica to sell the airline because, what's the need of, staying with something that makes losses year in, year out? I mean, every year you come up with a budget, there is one for the airline, but then it still makes losses. And I think that's also the same thing that's happening with Kenya Airways here in Kenya. So one of the conditions of the IMF, in order for IMF to bail Air Jamaica out, they had to sell it off. And that was a condition. So it was literally forced because the government had only three options. Number one, to halt the cash drain from the Air Jamaica, or ensure a sustainable airlift on critical tourism or diaspora routes, or finally save as many jobs as they could. Unfortunately, the only option that they had was to halt the cash drain. So at the end of it all, the national airline, the Caribbean Airline, which is the national airline of Trinidad and Tobago, bought the Air Jamaica, Airlines. And of course, it was difficult because this meant a lot of negative impact on the Jamaican economy, on the Jamaican people and everything. What Caribbean Airlines did is that once it bought the Air Jamaica, it acquired almost everything, the fleet, the key routes, it was just terrible. So the biggest mistake here, of course, was selling that particular airline because they lost the control over the National Tourism Gateway and also the market access. So there are so many consequences, there are so many impacts, and some of the consequences was the loss of control, as we had mentioned earlier. That meant that Jamaica had lost its instruments to influence tourist arrival, route development, and ticket pricing. And of course, as you all know, all these items that we just mentioned, they are really vital when it comes to tourism. And tourism in Jamaica, it's something that they do depend on like 100%. Of course, another negative impact that it had on the economy of Jamaica was the route cuts. Once the Caribbean airline acquired Air Jamaica, they had to discontinue these routes that were making less profits and concentrated on the ones that made at least profit, or routes that were profitable. So you see that actually closed an opportunity for those tourists that wanted to travel to Jamaica. And of course, they lost the brand, they lost the identity, the Lovebird brand, they lost it completely. And when it comes to job losses, like 1,000 workers lost their jobs. And of course, the 1,000 workers is equated to probably 2,000 families, because I could imagine like one worker of Air Jamaica, as family, like two. Let's put at a range of two. Each person had two families that depended on him or her, and then you multiply it by 1,000. So you see, like around, okay, that will be 3,000 people affected by the job losses, and that was really sad and bad. So the Jamaicans, of course, the Jamaicans need Air Jamaica back because of course, the negative impact that we just mentioned above. The jobs, they need it. Tourism, they also need it. I mean, the control of their economy and everything, they need it, guys. Anyway, that's it for today. Kindly comment down below what you think about the video. I'll see you in the next one. I love you to the moon and back. Kindly subscribe to the channel.